let's get straight to the new Scorpio.
The mighty and muscular Scorpio is back in a new avatar. The first major generational leap in this vehicle's 12-year run. The company had provided major upgrades and a new engine in 2006. There was a big facelift in 2008, and now it's an all-new platform for the very first time. But the Scorpio in its new generation still looks like the Scorpio we know, isn't it?
So you know how the company's tagline is, nothing else will do for the Scorpio? Looks like in styling terms. The company's taken that very literally, but there's a reason for that. There are certain carryovers, certain parts that have been brought in from the previous car, the windscreen, the doors and the roof. The reason for that is not just one of cost saving, it's also because it cuts down the development time, and as a result of that there was a certain boundary or a parameter set in for the designers, and so which is why the vehicle remains tall. Even though overall it's kind of gotten lower, it still has the same kind of ride height and the exterior dimensions remain similar despite the fact that you have a wider track. It's in the face though that you can see a completely new Scorpio. It's a lot more muscular looking, also very angular. I like the way the hood has been done. There's a lot of definition to it. The air scoop is a functional one, so it's not just there for show. The front grille is the new Scorpio front grille. Now there are going to be people who like it, there'll be others who don't. It looks a little unfinished to me, but these claw marks that you see are reminiscent of the XUV. This one looks more the cheetah than the XUV did, frankly, to me. It also comes from a very feline stance and a feline expression coming through with a furrowed brow up here and then the eyes, the headlamps. Smartly done, very angular as I said, especially this line coming in. It's just so sharp, very unlike what you see in the market today. So that's distinct and different. I'm a little perplexed as to why the LED strip is now, once again, like the XUV, a parking light and not a daytime running light. I mean, a daytime running signature would be so cool, right? You see this car coming up, you knew it was a Scorpio. But you have to wait until it's dark and you turn on parking lights for that to show up. A new element here on the fender is now standard as well, which identifies the Scorpio. As I mentioned, this part of the car remains very similar, so let's not talk about it. You do have carryover elements like this plastic bit, even though this particular body panel is once again all new. At the rear, you don't have the tall tail light stack anymore, which made the car look even narrower and taller and sort of slightly awkward looking. And the other thing that breaks that monotony is this plastic bit that's been done in the middle. Now, it's going to take some getting used to, so my instant reaction is I'm not sure if I like it or not, but it certainly does achieve what the company says it wants to achieve, which is breaks the monotony of all that metal at the back and makes the car look wider and not necessarily as top heavy and tall. It's a similar sort of an element here that you see from the previous tail light has been carried over. Again, I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I'm not sure this is something that couldn't have been done away with, but Scorpio fans will probably be happy with that. It's also clear and transparent sort of a finish. It is differently done and certainly looks like it's got a better finish and better overall material quality than the previous cars as well. So that's where it goes in terms of styling. The other thing which you'll notice once you start seeing these cars on the road, the base version has black bumpers and black cladding on the side, but otherwise that black cladding along the side has gone away, and so that's a good thing. The other good thing is that, as I mentioned, the car has gotten lower, so getting in and getting out of the car is also a little bit easier than it used to be on the previous Scorpio.
Okay, so some bits are overstyled and strange. And yes, I have to question the use of that black plastic at the rear, since there are no complementary black plastic pieces anywhere else on the car. Also, after Tata got it wrong with carrying over old Safari body panels to the new generation Storm, I wonder why Mahindra is doing the same. The company says it's to help cut down development time, but I'm sure it also helps save on costs. Cost saving, in fact, has been a key focus area in the development of the new platform for this car. Here you can see the previous platform alongside the new one. It's not just been made more frugal, it's also lighter. It carries more flexibility and it is stiffer too.
So since we are filming at the Mahindra plant, I decided it's also nice to get you to take a look underneath the skin. These are the two platforms. That's the old Scorpio platform and here is the new one. And this is the part that got me excited, because when you look at the vehicle you get a sense that, hang on, is this just a facelift? And then you realize that there's all this other work that's been carried out underneath the skin, as I said. So what you're seeing here is a platform that's twice as stiff as the old one. To me, that in itself is very encouraging. The other part about this platform that's important to know is that the track has been increased. It's 70 millimeters of an increase in the front and 50 at the rear. And again, the fact that they've gone with two different tracks in the front and the rear tells you that the focus has really been on improving the overall handling, also with the stiffness. There is also an anti-roll bar at the rear, and that's new. And the other part that I want to mention is that this entire platform is a modular one, something that Mahindra hasn't done in the past. So you see different sections of it. If you look at it closely, you'll start to see that there are little bits that have been welded together, and that's intentional, so that you can actually remove one particular section, change it around for a future vehicle, because all future vehicles that will be ladder on frame will be built on this platform. Unlike the past, where you had different platforms for the Scorpio and the Bolero and the other vehicles, all those future vehicles will come on this platform. The other flexibility that's been bundled into it, crash test norms. Very encouraging to see that coming from an Indian manufacturer as well. So you've got firstly the front section, which is energy impact absorbing, so that's new, and that section can also be changed depending on future regulations or export regulations in different markets. The middle section is where the wheelbase can be increased or decreased depending on what you're trying to do, and at the rear you could almost take off this last section if you want to go sub 4 meter, for example. So the flexibility of this platform tells us that there will be firstly multiple future products from Mahindra coming on it, and secondly the fact that there would also be a cost saving, so that makes them a lot more cost competitive going forward too.
So what does all of this mean for the drive performance of the car? Well, for starters, let me tell you, the engine is unchanged. It's the same 2.2-litre M-Hawk that powered the flagship Scorpio in the past that has been retained. The base version, the S2, will get the old 2.5-litre engine. But back to the 2.2 M-Hawk, it is a good workhorse with plenty of grunt and go. The car with me was two-wheel drive, but there is a new four-wheel drive system that can be activated on the fly.
It's very evident that there's been work put in to make the body a lot stiffer. The chassis is stiffer for sure. You get that in the first few minutes when you get in. Body roll has been cut down tremendously. Again, that's something very evident right away. And the engine mounts, even though they're the same number of mounts, the positions have been changed, and the work that's been carried out there helps, because it means that overall noise and vibration levels that used to creep in from the engine bay into the cabin have been drastically cut down. You can still hear the engine. It's kind of growly and noisy like that, but the vibration levels, especially in the gear stick, all of that cut down drastically from before.
And that's the big redeeming factor on the car. I drove the new Scorpio on the Mahindra test track inside the Nashik plant, but also had the chance to drive the camouflaged car at much higher speed and across varying roads and surfaces.
Now Mahindra says that the big focus for the car and the engineering team was handling, wanted to really improve that and get it right. So has it worked? But I can tell you that if you want to be harsh and compare it to a monocoque construction car like the Duster, then sure, there are still certain things that Mahindra could have done better. But having said that, given the fact that the company decided it wants to go with body on frame and doesn't want to switch to monocoque on this particular platform, well then yes, the work that's been put in to make all of those compromises seem to be a little lesser and reduced, that work comes through. And you do have a stiffer ride, you do have a much better quality than before, and even the ride quality. Mahindra says that it was happy with the previous car's ride quality, and consumers were happy too. But I can tell you that that has improved. It's a lot more comfortable than what it used to be before. Less fatigue on longer trips is what people are going to find, because it's not as bouncy as it used to be. And even the driving position, you still have that slightly upright kind of a position, which takes some getting used to, you know, king of the road kind of feel. But once you do get used to it, the seat is better centered with the steering wheel. Overall ergonomics are better too, and so yes, all of that work has come through.
Now let's take you inside the car in more detail. And at first glance, the cabin surely looks like a completely new generation car, doesn't it? What you are seeing is the top-end S10 variant, but the same color scheme will be carried through the range, says the company. Not all the features, of course.
Like chalk and cheese, I mean, you compare this interior to the previous Scorpios and that one looks tacky and cheap by comparison, because this is a whole lot more upmarket looking. It's not just the quality of materials that's improved, it's also the color palette, it's also the layout, and it doesn't look as heavy and bulky and sort of forced. It's nice, it's lost a lot of weight. It's looking lean, and as I mentioned, the colors, they really work well. I'm so sick of the beige, and I'm sure a lot of you are too. So it's nice to see this nice muted grey, and there's also a dark grey up here. It's not black, which means that this piece will probably age well in our kind of summer and the heat and everything else that goes with it. The central console here is obviously only on the top end variants. It's got the touch screen, which is reminiscent of what you've seen on the XUV in terms of interface and features, so I won't go there, but quality of buttons and the overall layout smarter than what you've seen on the XUV. The plastics overall just look better. The colors, I'm going to keep saying it, the seats as well, just so nicely done. Not that sort of cheap loud pattern on the upholstery. You might see some different upholstery in different variants, but this looks really classy and nice. The steering wheel, Mahindra says it's worked on to try and make it look better and more upmarket. It's interesting in terms of shape, but I feel that the plastics here could have been better. Maybe a leather covering on the top version might make it look a little more upmarket. The instruments, fairly nicely done, but again, I would have liked to see a little more depth, a little more of a modern sort of a layout, which is a little lacking. But overall, the interiors really are a step up. On the top end variant, you of course get a few chrome accents as well. And yeah, you can see that I'm completely thrilled with what I'm seeing here. And if I'm thrilled, there's one thing that's made me even happier. That is this little sign here, SRS airbag. Of course, this is the S10, which is the top end version, but Mahindra is putting where its money where its mouth is, because at the Auto Expo, Pawan Goenka had promised me that he's going to take this whole safety thing to a new level. You remember, I've been saying this for the longest time. Why can't car makers simply offer an option pack, like a safety pack, across all variants, so that then you, the consumer, can decide if you want to spend the money on it? Mahindra has decided to do that. So with the Scorpio and all future products, even in the base entry version, you will have airbags and ABS as an option. And that option pack is something that's made me very happy. So yes, it's not just the top end version, even the base version, you could get yourself the airbags and the ABS. Great move, Mahindra. I am absolutely thrilled.
The top-end versions have the same touchscreen interface as the XUV 500s, but the navigation system is majorly upgraded, and it can also now give audio directions in 10 Indian languages. That's pretty cool. The text on the screen though will only be in English, but the audio in everything from Marathi to Kannada to Gujarati.
Now, ingress and egress is definitely a lot better than it used to be on the previous car, and the older people will certainly find that more convenient, those in your family. There is a drop-down armrest. Overall, the seat is more comfortable than before, even though it's the same structure of the seat from the previous car. I would have liked to have seen a little more contouring here on the seat cushion, because while you have good under-thigh support, the seating position is quite alright. On longer drives, I would have liked to be a little more cushioned. So, well, maybe in high-end variants, Mahindra could think of doing that in the future and offer that as an option perhaps. Slightly more plush rear seat. The one thing that is a little bit of a sticking point for me, because Mahindra restricted itself by not changing the doors and trying to keep a similar sort of appeal in terms of shell, certain things aren't that convenient, and so which is why, just like in the front seat, when you're driving, you've got to sort of reach for the gear stick. Similarly, the power window switch, sort of an awkward position to have it. It would have been better if it was somewhere here, which is easier to reach. However, you do have this little cubby hole here for you to keep your cell phone in.
So the new Scorpio is more than simply same wine, new bottle. It has a lot of work that's gone into it. It would have been wiser, in my opinion, for Mahindra to consider a monocoque chassis instead of a body-on-frame setup. But given it's gone with that, the car has been well tuned and is certainly a big improvement on the previous Scorpio, and we are very happy to have it drive in.